I'm really trying to get to film this video, and this guy just walked by with a leaf blower. I don't know if you can hear him right now. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about queerness and how that has affected the way that I view the world and how I identify. And sorry, this is going to be really all over the place because I don't have anything written down, and kind of just wanted to talk it out, if that makes sense. So I came out as trans 3 years ago, in March 2015, and I came out as FTM transgender, so female to male, basically meaning someone who was born with female sex characteristics, wanting to transition to appear more masculine. At the time, I thought that was the only identification I could go with to be seen as valid. I feel like at the time, I couldn't come out as non-binary or gender non-conforming or anything along those lines because those identities, even still today, aren't really understood. And I mean, transgender, the whole idea of being transgender is still not understood by the masses, but I think there's steps that have been taken to help people understand what transgender means, but only in terms of what binary trans people look like and appear like and act like, which is really problematic, but it's a step. Yeah, so at the time when I came out, I know I didn't feel at all female and didn't identify with that at all, but I also didn't 100% identify as male. I felt like I had to stay as a girl or come out as someone who wanted to be seen as a man, which I feel like is what a lot of trans people coming to terms with their identities feel like at the beginning of their transitions, whatever that means for them. For me, I knew I wanted to go on testosterone because I wanted to have a deeper voice. I wanted to have more masculine characteristics that I didn't have when I was growing up. But it's crazy to see how much I've changed and grown over the past 3 years since coming out and since starting testosterone. I'll be about 3 years on testosterone August this year, which is crazy to think that it's been 3 years already. I've recently just come to terms with being more queer than I initially thought. I think a lot of the emotions that I was going through when I first came out had to do with fitting in, not drawing attention to myself, making sure that I could look as masculine as possible to get away from any feminine aspect of myself that I have. I've just realized, I am non-binary, and while I'm comfortable with he, him pronouns, I'm also not opposed to the idea of using they, them pronouns as well, because I don't feel like I fit into the box of man. I'm queer in a lot of aspects. Queer is in my gender identity. I don't fall into the perfect box of being binary, FTM, but I also don't feel female at all, and I like where I'm at on the spectrum, that I'm not quite this, not quite that, but somewhere in the middle. Queer in who I love and who I like. I told a friend once that, I'm not straight, but I'm not gay either. I just feel like queer is a word that encompasses a lot of aspects of my identity. And I get that people might not like using that word to identify themselves, but that's just a word that I've felt the most comfortable starting to use since coming out. And that might change in the next few years, but for right now, that's something that I've come to terms with and feel comfortable using. And in terms of like romantic relationships, I want to be more open with people, because I feel like I try to shrink myself around people so that my queerness doesn't show, which I know you shouldn't do. You shouldn't hide parts of yourself from people, because you're never going to know if people are going to like you that way, if you're always performing. I'm just trying to embrace parts of myself that are more feminine than masculine. I think that's something that people are afraid to do, because we're afraid to be stereotyped. And I know a lot of this has to do with how I'm working through like internalized transphobia and homophobia and stuff like that is ingrained into us at a young age, even before we become ourselves. But for me, I think it's been tough, because as I've come to terms with being queer, I've come to terms with the fact that I'm not only attracted to women, and I'm not only attracted to men, and I'm not only attracted to any kind of gender. I'm just attracted to people, and I have to constantly remind myself, people are going to like you regardless of how you identify and how you look and how you sound. And I don't want to speak for the entire community, but I feel like that's something that a lot of trans people have a difficulty with, trying to appear as a gender that they want to appear as, while also making sure that they check themselves in terms of, am I sounding too, like, is my voice too high pitched if I want to be seen as a man? Is my voice too deep if I want to be seen as a woman? For me, my queerness means that I don't adhere to what it means to be any one thing. I feel like I'm really fortunate to have had this much growth and change happen to me in this lifetime. Sorry, I know this is all over the place, but I just wanted to say, because my battery's about to die, that I'm excited to be coming up on 3 years of testosterone, of being on hormones, and since starting my medical transition, as well as transition mentally and all that stuff. And just saying that it's alright to be queer, it's alright not to fit into a certain box in any aspect. You don't even have to be trans. Never shrink yourself for people, but I'm proud to be queer in all aspects, and I'm just ready for all the changes that may come over the next few years because of realizing this. So thank you for listening if you made it this far, and I'm hoping to make another video soon. So thank you.